Artificial intelligence AI is on the rise, and it sounds really smart. Why not use a program that can search through the all accumulated knowledge on the internet and boil it down to a few simple points? I therefore asked the chatbot ChatGPT, what is good running technique? And the answer I got was 5 bullet points, namely posture. Stay upright and keep your shoulders back and down. Focus on having a strong and balanced body. Arms. Keep your arms close to your body at a 90-degree angle. Try not to use excessive movements with your arms while running, as this can waste energy. Step counting. Try not to bounce up and down while running. Instead, you should try to run with a quiet, smooth and controlled stride. Breathing. Try to keep your breathing relaxed and controlled while running. Deep breaths help to increase oxygen intake. Forefoot strike. Many runners practice landing midfoot or forefoot instead of the heel to reduce stress on the legs and to reduce the risk of injury. And if I now ask you if this is good advice, your answer is probably,
well, yes.
Because the chatbot's answer is based on information found on the internet, which you probably also have read. One funny thing is that the ChatGPT is aware that the answer is not the truth, but only a summary what is said on the internet, as the answer starts with,
as an AI assistant, it is beyond my ability to have a personal opinion. But here are some techniques that are considered important for runners to take into account.
So the program quite clearly says, don't shoot the messenger. But let's now take a closer look at the answers. Tip 1. Posture. Stay upright to keep your shoulders back and down. Focus on having a strong and balanced body. Stay upright is a pretty good suggestion. And this is because many runners lean a little bit too much forward when they run, even though it's usually not to be completely vertical between the shoulder and the hip, but instead have a slight forward lean. But a lot of runners lean too much. Shoulders down and back. Obviously, you shouldn't have your shoulders up and forward, but it's quite common to give an advice that is supposed to be good, but it's just the opposite of what is bad. It is bad to let your shoulders hang forward or be shrugged up like this, but that doesn't mean it's good to pull them back and down. Instead, it's usually best to find a neutral position, a neutral place in the center. Not here and not here, but here. Not here, not here, but maybe here. But many instructions, they are just like that. The opposite of bad. And the opposite of bad is not always good. No matter what sport you do, relaxation is always very important. If you are told that you should keep your shoulders back and down, it sounds like you really should keep them there in some kind of static position. And that's not the case. I also made a video about that, and you can find it here on my channel. And what is the deal with focus on having a strong and balanced body? Sure, it's good if you are strong, but the chatbot doesn't suggest that you should do strength training, but that you should focus on having a strong body. And that is just like being told before an IQ test, well, focus on being clever. Tip number 2 from the chatbot, arms. Keep your arms close to your body at a 90-degree angle. Try not to use excessive movements with your arms while running, as this can waste energy. I've already made a video about the angle of the elbows, so feel free to watch it for more information. But we once again can note that when the organization World Athletics measured the elbow angles of the best runners, both the men and the women, at the 10,000 meter and the marathon at the 2017 World Championships, no one, I say no one, had a 90-degree angle in their elbow. Everyone had a much sharper angle. That doesn't mean that you can't have 90 degrees in your elbows, but why recommend something that none of the top 10,000 meters and marathon runners had at this World Championship? And then the chatbot insists on the word keep, as in keep your arms close to your body. You should not hold them in, but if you are relaxed in your shoulders, gravity will make them hang down close to your body, and then they will swing with the rhythm. It's all about relaxation, not holding and keeping them in like this. The phrase "try not to use excessive movements with your arms," and that is a perfectly acceptable instruction. The question is, what is meant of the word excessive? I think that you should see the video I made about how you can save energy by letting the elbows swing out from the body compared to keeping them close to the body, where I also show that this is how many of the world's best long-distance runners of all time run. Tip 3. Step counting. Try not to bounce up and down while running. Instead, you should try to run with a quiet, smooth and controlled stride. I must say that the most surprising thing about this answer is that it doesn't say take 180 steps per minute. If you want to know more about cadence and the 180 steps per minute advice, you can watch a film I made about that one. But here it says count steps. I don't really know if I'm helped by that advice. 2,475, 2,040, 3,534. And then try not to bounce up and down while running. Well, good luck with that. The center of mass in the body moves up and down like an arc when you run. It is absolutely impossible to make it move straight forward when you run. And furthermore, if you and I throw a ball and we throw it with exactly the same force, and you throw it exactly straight ahead and I throw it a bit upwards forward, my ball will go further than yours. So if you and I use exactly the same force in the push-off and you try to move your center of mass straight forward like this, your stride will be shorter than mine, which means that you will have to use more force, more energy to get as far as I did with a single step. It's obviously not good to move too much up and down, but trying to minimize vertical movement is not good either. Especially as it also can affect the stretch shortening cycle in a negative way. The opposite of bad isn't always good. And then run with a quiet step. Come on, chatbot, keep up with the research. The study impact sound across rear foot, midfoot and forefoot strike during overground running from 2021. They measured the sound volume that occurs when runners land on their heel, their midfoot or their forefoot, and then compared it to the vertical forces that occurs. And was it the case that those with the most silent landing also had the least amount of forces going up in the body? The answer is no, they didn't. The researchers concluded, and I quote, "We did not find a significant relationship between vertical loading rates and any impact sound parameters. However, they did find a relationship between how the runners landed and the sound volume. Those who landed on their heels generated the least amount of sound, while those landing midfoot generated the most sound during landing. But this said nothing about the forces of the landing, and not anything about injury risk." Tip number 4. Breathing. Try to keep your breathing relaxed and controlled while running. Deep breaths help to increase oxygen intake. Well, not much to say. Of course it is good if your breathing is relaxed. I don't know if this tip has so much to do with biomechanics, but I'm really glad that the chatbot made a point that I don't have to dismiss completely. Last one. Number 5. Forefoot strike. Many runners practice landing midfoot or forefoot instead of the heel to reduce stress on the leg and reduce the risk of injury. Please see my video on heel and forefoot landing, where I show figures from the 2017 World Marathon Championships, where only 3% of the runners landed on the forefoot at one of the 4 measuring stations set up by the organization World Athletics. And that was competition where the men who took gold, silver, bronze medals, and also the 4th place guy in this World Championship landed on their heels at all 4 measuring stations. And to say that heel landing is inefficient and should be avoided at all time, when all the male medalists did that at this World Championship, and that is of course rubbish. But this, of course, does not mean that everyone should land on their heels, as what is optimal differs a lot at different paces. And those guys at the championship obviously ran very fast compared to runners like you and me. And no, you can't say that the forefoot strike reduces the risk of injury. The risk of certain types of injuries decreases, while the risk of other injuries increases, statistically speaking. And there you have it, the chatbot ChatGPT's 5 points on how to get a good running technique. Please follow the advice if you like, but I personally find that even though AI has progressed enormously recently, there is still a long way to go before you can be sure of getting any meaningful information. So until then, try to find information from as reliable sources as you can. And I can also give you a tip on one such reliable source, and that is a YouTube channel with a name that starts with an F and ends with Fredrik Zillén, Running Technique Specialist. I truly hope you liked that video, and if you did, please click the like button and maybe also the subscribe button. And feel free to check out all the other content I have here on my channel. And maybe you are also interested in my online course. You'll find it at fredrikzillén.com.